This is pretty exciting. We are at the end of Business 210, Principles of Management, this spring semester. We have just completed, or hopefully you have just completed reviewing chapters 14, 15, and 16. You have the study notes. They've been provided to you along with some pages out of the textbook. And you have the videos for each one of those chapters. So as you're looking at this video about reviewing for the final, you need to make sure you have your study notes. You need to make sure that you have reviewed those 3 videos. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my book in just a minute, sit down here in the chair, and I'm going to review with you chapters 1 through 13, the important things in those chapters for the final. Now chapters 14, 15, and 16, that's the major part of the final, or a lot of the final, because those 3 chapters we have not tested on yet. And I've already given you the know and be familiar with things in there, so I don't have to worry about chapters 14, 15, and 16. You picked that up when you looked at the videos. So let me get my book. And I'm going to start at the beginning and just go over those things that are of most importance. I will mention one other thing. You've got a research paper. I think that research paper is 60 points. 3 pages, 3 sources. You go and read something in the world of management, something we've talked about. It doesn't have to be, but something that involves management. And find 3 different things about it. Find 3 different articles, 3 different things, 3 different sources. Read those sources and everything, and do a 3-page summary. Don't copy the articles. Do a 3-page summary of what you found by going to those 3 different sources. Now the book cannot be one of those sources. It has to be 3 outside sources. So 3 sources, 3 pages. That's worth 60 points. Make sure you do that and get that in by the deadline. Now I'm going to review out of the 7th edition. A lot of you have the 7th, so a lot of you have the 8th edition. So if I tell you that this is in chapter 1 on page 9, and you go to chapter 1, page 9, and you can't find it, you don't have to freak out. If you have the 8th edition, it may be on page 10, or it may be on page 8, but it's in there. And it's in that chapter. So just, you may have to look a little bit. All right, let's get started with our finals review for Business 210. Chapter 1, page 5 in my book. I would know the definition of management. Most of these things are things that were no things on the first 3 tests. So most of them you're going to say, oh yeah, I've already heard of that. Probably didn't surprise you that the definition of management was going to be on the final. So it's chapter 1, page 5, the definition of management. Okay. Then a little bit further over in chapter 1, in my book, it's on page 9. I want you to know the 4 functions that all managers perform: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Okay. Then, still in chapter 1, my page 22, I want you to know the 3 skills that all managers should have: technical skills, conceptual skills, human skills. Now in my book, that's on page 22, 23. And if you remember on test number 1, definition of management, functions that managers perform, skills that managers have to have, all those things were in on test number 1. All right, let me find the next thing that's going to be on our final. In chapter 5, on page 140, I want you to know the fundamentals of planning. Also, if I can go off camera for just a moment. Just don't worry. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, there it is. In your study guides, I think the last page of your study guide, I put a copy of these fundamentals of planning there for you in case you did not have a book. So that's a part of your study guide. I think the very last page in the notes for chapter 16. I think I threw this in at the end. But I would know out of chapter 5, I would know the fundamentals of planning, vision, and on all of these things, I'd be able to list them and then say a little something about each one. That goes for the functions that managers perform. That goes for the skills and that type of thing. All right, so we've got a bunch of no's so far. Let's go a little bit further. In chapter 7, I would know, now I'd be familiar with. On chapter 7, the very first of the chapter, in my book it's on page 190, I would be familiar with what a decision is and what decision making is. A decision is a choice among alternative courses of action, or a decision is a choice made among available alternatives. Decision making is the process that you use to make a decision. So I'd just be familiar with those two. However, on page 191, still in chapter 7, I would know the rational decision making steps. As I remember our handout for that chapter, the handout was very good. It was very good. It had that on there for you. Identify the problem, think up alternatives, evaluate. But the rational decision making steps, I would know them. That's in chapter 7. All right. Okay, off camera again, excuse me. Thought I had all that stuff when I got up here, but I guess I didn't. Let me check. Always like I tell you in class, when I'm turning pages and being quiet, that's a good thing, because that means there's things that we're not going to have to know or be familiar with. I think that's it. I think that's the only things that you need to know and just that one little be familiar with in chapters 1 through 13. Now remember, in chapters 14, 15, and 16, and I don't have those in front of me right now, but remember we had a number of things that were no items. I know leadership was a no, the communication model was a no, the steps in the control process was a no. So there's a number of things. So as you watch those videos of 14, 15, and 16, you'll pick up the no's for those particular chapters. Okay, that's the review for the final. The final is important. The final in your research paper. Your final's worth 100 points. Your research paper's worth 60. That's 160 points right at the end of the semester. That can make or break you. Now look, y'all got a lot going on, just like I do. There's a lot of stress out there. You may have stress in your work, you may have stress in your family, and I understand that. You need things positive going on right now. So one of the positive things that you can have going on is to finish really strong in Business 210. And you say, hey, I did well, I've got that class. A positive thing is I've completed that class and I'm one step closer to getting my associate degree in business. So I can't emphasize enough, Study those no's. The no's you got to know. Be familiar with those, be familiar with. This is not a time to say, well, I'll look it over a little bit. Finish strong. Finish strong on this final. Finish strong on your research paper. 3 sources, 3 pages. 3 pages. If you give me 2 pages, the most you're going to get is 40 out of 60. You know, if you don't cite, I need to know what the 3 sources were. When you look, if you don't cite the sources, you're going to lose points. Finish strong on the research paper. If you have any questions about the research paper, look in the contract document. It tells you just how to do it. And make sure you study hard for the final. Okay, I've enjoyed being with you in Business 210. Halfway face-to-face and the other half online. And it's been interesting to do these online. Honestly, I'd much rather you be sitting in here with us so we could be discussing these things. But I think we've done well, and I think we've learned what we need to learn out of Business 210. So I'm going to wrap this up. Good luck on the final. Look forward to seeing you in other classes in the fall. So I'll wrap this up with the clap, and you can shout as I clap. And this will be good luck on the final. Takes care of Business 210. Thank you very much.